Tonight, as world leaders discuss China and Russia, Ukraine's president weighs in with the G7.
Thank you, your government, of course, Canadian people for supporting us.
What new promises may come Volodymyr Zelensky's way? With smoke hanging heavy in Alberta, farmers and firefighters wait for rain.
The air quality in Western Canada is getting into hazardous levels.
For Corey Connors, the final round was all uphill. But an unknown gave the golf world a major thrill.
Rory, did it go in?
This is The National with David Common.
Good evening. Ian is away. The G7 summit in Hiroshima has now wrapped with a message of unity in the face of global threats. And with the arrival of Volodymyr Zelensky, one threat topped the agenda. Zelensky said the images of the Ukrainian city of Bakhmut, which may have fallen now to Russian forces with buildings destroyed, devoid of life, reminded him of Hiroshima after the detonation of the atomic bomb. Ashley Burke shows us how Zelensky and the G7 were looking not only to Ukraine's normal allies, but beyond them for new sources of support.
This dramatic arrival turned into the G7's main event. A sudden whirlwind visit by Ukraine's president met with a warm embrace by the prime minister.
We talk every few weeks, but it's so nice to be able to see you in person.
Volodymyr Zelensky in person to drum up support for his plan to drive Russian troops out of Ukraine.
Thank you very much. Thank you, your government, of course, Canadian people for supporting us.
G7 leaders united around Zelensky, condemning Russian aggression and vowing to help Ukraine until the very end.
It is Russia that can end this war tomorrow if they stop trying to invade a peaceful neighbor. It's that simple.
Trudeau pledged his unwavering support, but no new weapons. Zelensky says he's working with Canada on a powerful demining project, but said right now the details are confidential. The U.S. has given other countries the green light to supply fighter jets, with the U.S. providing training to Ukrainian pilots. U.S. President Joe Biden shrugged off Russia's warning that the move was a big risk.
It is for them.
We've made a real breakthrough at this summit, thanks to President Biden's support for an international coalition to provide F-16 jets.
But the real breakthrough they wanted is from the global south. A series of non-aligned countries invited to observe the summit. G7 leaders want to pull them closer so they break away from Russia.
I do believe that it can be a game changer.
Zelensky made his personal plea to India's prime minister.
A real pleasure to be able to sit down with President Lula.
Justin Trudeau raised it too with Brazil. While all the countries condemn breaking international rules,
Real pleasure to sit down with you again, Joko.
they wouldn't directly condemn Russia.
Good to see you as well.
Canada's plan invests more than $500 million into lower-income countries, so they no longer have to turn to Russia for help. Trudeau said during G7 talks this site served as a reminder of the consequences of war. This is where the world's first atomic bomb dropped, and behind me, that is the only structure that was left standing. Now, Trudeau said the threat of nuclear weapons is real, and he condemned Russia for what he called reckless rhetoric. Ashley Burke, CBC News, Hiroshima.
Russian President Vladimir Putin has congratulated mercenary forces for capturing the Ukrainian city of Bakhmut. If that's true, it would be Russia's most significant victory after nearly a year of setbacks in Ukraine. But Kate McKenna tells us both that claim and the city's strategic value have a lot of doubters.
With little left to claim but burnt rubble, Russia says it's taken Bakhmut.
20:05:2023.
The leader of the Wagner mercenary group bragged, saying every centimeter of Bakhmut is under Russian control. This eastern city, the site of the longest and bloodiest battle in this war, and until now, a symbol of Ukrainian resistance.
If reports are accurate, I mean, there's not much left of Bakhmut.
On Rosemary Barton Live, this former U.S. chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff said that Russia's gains were costly.
I think the Russians have sacrificed and lost a ton of people, of forces, of military capability. So in that respect, it's been a draw of their forces.
But despite Russian claims, there are signs it's not over yet. Ukrainian President Vladimir Zelenskyy says some soldiers are still in the city, a message echoed by others in Ukraine.
I'm receiving pictures which showing them they're within the city, but Russians are claiming that they captured it all. So obviously they are lying.
What has been confirmed is that Ukraine has gained ground on the city's outskirts, potentially giving it a tactical edge in future fighting. This as the country signals plans for a massive spring counteroffensive. Ukraine hopes to use weapons from allies to take back lost territory.
I don't think there's any question that it's coming. I don't have great expectations that the Russians are going to be able to fight a whole lot better than they have in the past.
At the G7, allies pledged their unwavering support, putting the world's focus on this small, beleaguered city, still at the center of a global conflict. Kate McKenna, CBC News, Ottawa.
Let's turn now to the wildfire situation in Western Canada, where there's been little relief this weekend as hot and dry weather persists. 84 fires are currently burning in Alberta, 23 of them out of control, and 17 communities are still under evacuation orders. Smoke also continues to be a major problem. Air quality for much of the province is at the highest level of risk. Kayla Hounsell takes a look at those conditions and the weather that will impact the fires over the next few days.
Alberta wildfires are so big and so fierce, they're causing even firefighters to run. Just days earlier, another firefighter was seriously injured in this same fire. More than 1,700 Alberta firefighters and support staff battled the flames this weekend.
They're out there alongside more than 1,000 firefighters from across North America, from New Brunswick to Alaska.
Near this fire, 260 kilometers northwest of Edmonton, a man used a gravel road to go around a checkpoint. The fire surrounded him and a forestry helicopter had to rescue him. The RCMP says it wants to charge him, saying that's the kind of thing that puts a strain on fire-weary first responders and threatens communities. And then there's the smoke.
The air quality in Western Canada is getting into hazardous levels.
A special air quality statement is in place across the province, and people are advised to stay indoors.
The elderly and the young are the most vulnerable. The young are vulnerable because their lungs are developing right now. And if they inhale wood smoke, that's going to cause lung inflammation and potentially cause a lot of damage to young, immature lungs.
This farmer has no choice but to be outside.
I think about when I was growing up, you go to the bar and you've got, secondhand smoke wafting through up to the roof, and it's almost like working in that type of environment. It's very difficult.
The smoke is bad for crops, too.
The smoke, obviously, it's hiding the sun, and the plants need photosynthesis. They need sunlight.
It also blocked the air defense. The smoke so thick, water bombers couldn't fly yesterday. But there is a silver lining in that gray haze.
As with many of the other fires, we have seen low wildfire activity.
It helps keep the temperatures and the winds down, both otherwise a recipe for more fire.
Kayla, what can we expect over the next few days in terms of weather?
Well, David, there is rain in the forecast for the next couple of days, but a lot depends on how long it lasts. Showers just aren't going to cut it here. What firefighters really need are long, steady rains that will really soak the ground. It also depends on where it falls and if it is directly over some of these problem areas we've been talking about, which it seems like it could be when it comes to central Alberta. But David, fire officials are warning when it comes to the northwestern corner of this province, things could remain dry and warm, which might mean more fires.
All right. Kayla Hounsell, thank you. Parts of BC are also burning, with some fires dangerously close to communities. Last night, an evacuation order was issued for an area about 100 kilometers northwest of Williams Lake due to a nearby wildfire that crews have not been able to subdue. Across the province, 34 fires are burning out of control. To Italy now, where Mount Etna has erupted, spewing ash and smoke over southern Italy. The eruption has limited visibility, forcing the local airport to suspend all flights, but no injuries have been reported. Etna is Europe's most active volcano, erupting numerous times each year. Back in 2021, one of those eruptions lasted several weeks. So this is Rome. Climate activists targeting the legendary Trevi Fountain. Equipped with banners that read, "We won't pay for fossil fuel," the group entered the fountain, poured a substance into the water. You see it turning black as a result. Not long after, officers jumped in as locals and tourists watched. A Canadian was looking to make a splash today at the PGA Championship. Corey Connors started the day within striking distance of making history. But as Travis Danraj tells us, a golfer on a break from his day job stole the show.
From Canada, Corey Connors.
The PGA Championship trophy will not sit on Corey Connors' mantle this year. Still, the 31-year-old from Listowel, Ontario, who has been dreaming of being a pro since he was a kid, has a lot to be proud of. How old were you there?
9 years old, probably.
9 years old. At 9 years old, did you ever think that you would make it this far in golf?
You know, I dreamed as if I would, but you know, never thought it would be a reality.
Connors came into the final round in second place, but quickly trickled down the leaderboard. Still, fans say he's proved he's one of the best.
I think he's kind of held his own today. I'm pretty proud of him.
Competing in something like this, being in the second to last group, it's amazing.
There were a record 6 Canadians in the field this year.
PGA professional Michael Block.
But it was an American that stole the show, culminating with this beauty.
The fairy tale story gets better.
No way. Roy, did it go in?
A hole-in-one for 46-year-old Michael Block.
No.
The capper on a dream week for the unlikely star. Block teaches lessons at a public course in California. The reaction back at his home club? We'll take a look. Block has become a fan favorite.
Block's crazy, came out of nowhere, really.
Oh, the crowd erupted, it was crazy. Block by block.
Experts say his 15th place finish is simply incredible, and how he's handling it, equally masterful.
He was at the pub last night, he was drinking beers, they showed him on social media, just hanging out with everyone, and it's no surprise that all the fans around here were so excited to see him play as well as he did.
Travis joins us from Rochester. And Travis, a pretty dramatic day. What is next now for Block and Connors?
Well, Block's finish qualifies him for the championship next year, and his payday wasn't so bad either. $300,000, a little bit more than those golf lessons pay back in California. Now, as for Connors, it's not all doom and gloom. There are still 2 more majors on the schedule, and he's expected to be at both. David?
All right, Travis, thank you. Ron DeSantis is reportedly just days away from making it official. The Florida governor will challenge Donald Trump for the Republican presidential nomination. While his party waits for that message, several advocacy groups have just sent their own about his state. Chris Reyes with their warning.
It's famous for theme parks and beaches, but according to the NAACP, Florida is hostile to African Americans, people of color, and LGBTQ+ communities. The group points a finger at Governor Ron DeSantis in an unusual travel advisory, warning: before traveling to Florida, please understand that the state of Florida devalues and marginalizes the contributions of and challenges faced by African Americans and other minorities. That warning in reaction to the governor's contentious legislative agenda, barring a new course on African American studies, limiting sexual orientation education for young students, and cracking down on illegal immigration. In recent weeks, Equality Florida, a gay rights advocacy group, and LULAC, an organization representing Latin American citizens, have issued a similar advisory.
It's really supremely disappointing that a governor of the United States, a governor of a state like Florida, would just be spitting in the face of the Statue of Liberty.
So far, no comment from DeSantis, but the governor has been very vocal about what he calls policies that secure the border, empower parents, and prevent indoctrination. Florida resident Brenda Torres says DeSantis' policies have had harmful consequences. A pride gathering she was organizing had to be canceled because of a death threat.
People
wonder if they're safe and if they can enjoy time with their family in a safe space.
Tourism is one of the biggest industries in Florida. Last year, the state's tourism agency estimated more than 130 million visitors.
The fact of the matter is, I think it's going to be devastating for the Florida economy because you have a politician who wants to be president and doesn't care how many bodies he crawls over to get there.
Next week, DeSantis is expected to announce he's running for president. Chris Reyes, CBC News, New York.
In El Salvador, at least 12 people have died in a stampede at a soccer stadium. Outside was chaos as rescue teams tried to get to the injured. The stampede broke out in the middle of a match in one of Central America's largest stadiums with a capacity of 44,000. The number of injured isn't known. The country's president promising a thorough investigation. A group of Cuban Canadians say they're being targeted by the Cuban government, harassed with false accusations because of their anti-regime activism here in Canada. Evan Dyer spoke with some of the men who say they're being intimidated.
When Montrealer Carlos Andrades went back to his native Cuba in March to visit his mother, he and his Canadian-born children and grandchild were confronted at their hotel.
They went to the hotel I was in Cuba in order to give me an appointment by a military woman.
Andrades was ordered to go to a detention center where he met this interrogator, Colonel Luis Morales, who presented him with evidence of his participation in opposition rallies and social media postings critical of communist rule, a crime in Cuba.
So you are against the war because you are not in Canada.
Andrades was allowed to leave Cuba with his daughters.
And I had to say bye to my mother. It was not that easy. A week later, I see that.
That was the first of 2 YouTube videos posted by an account linked to Cuban state security that included scenes of Andrades' interrogation. It named Andrades and 12 other Cuban Montrealers as conspirators trafficking cocaine from Colombia to Canada, using their businesses to smuggle the drugs across eastern Canada and the U.S. Named as the head of the organization is Maximo Morales, a businessman who 30 years ago was a major drug trafficker.
Coke in proportions Montreal police have never seen before.
Convicted in Montreal's largest ever cocaine seizure. Morales used the millions of dollars he made working with the Medellin cartel in the 1980s to finance training camps for the Cuban opposition in the Everglades. 3 decades later, he says, his life has changed and his businesses are legitimate. None of these other guys have any police record at all, he says, only me, and I've been pardoned. The men worry that the campaign against them could go further. Tito Cardenas owns a dance studio. He's worried someone will plant cocaine in the business.
I went to the police and I said, look, I'm afraid that they put something in my house.
But CSIS, the RCMP, and local police all said there was nothing they could do.
We feel that the Canadian government has been naive. Those kinds of regimes, they don't stay in their borders.
The Cuban embassy didn't respond to questions about the case, and neither did Canada's Department of Public Safety or Global Affairs. As for the 13 Montrealers, they say they plan to continue campaigning for change in Cuba. Evan Dyer, CBC News, Ottawa.
Canadian restaurants are asking Ottawa for a reprieve on pandemic loans as they risk going under.
The dynamic and the drivers of the business have completely changed pre- and post-pandemic.
How some are pivoting to stay afloat. The Canada Revenue Agency is facing a class action lawsuit after a hack some say was preventable.
This is their security protocol that had failed, but I'm left to pick up all the pieces.
And a family takes action to save its unusual pet.
She's not used to spending extended periods outside because she's a bit of a pampered princess.
We're back in 2. Princess Anne wrapped up her visit to Canada today after spending the weekend in New Brunswick, paying tribute to Canada's oldest armoured regiment. Princess Anne is the Colonel-in-Chief of the 8th Canadian Hussars. On Saturday in Moncton, she attended a military parade in honor of their 175th anniversary. A Toronto man is living a financial nightmare 3 years after his CRA account was hacked. He says fraudsters applied for about $40,000 of federal benefits using his social insurance number. He says he's been on his own trying to clear the record, despite the government's promise to help thousands of cyber attack victims. Here's Rosa Marcatelli from our Go Public unit.
Justice Muncie is constantly making calls, trying to shut down identity thieves applying for credit and government benefits under his name. So far, it's happened at least 18 times, ever since hackers got into the CRA's website and stole his private information. His nightmare began here.
More details tonight about the cyber attacks on federal accounts that compromised the personal information of thousands of Canadians.
In all, the accounts of about 48,000 tax-paying Canadians were accessed by hackers 3 years ago.
Let me see who else I have.
And if that's not enough, the same government department is demanding he repeatedly prove he's not behind the fraud. The latest? The CRA wants more than $6,000 in taxes and interest related to EI claims Muncie didn't make.
I think I've received maybe 4 different notices stating, hey, you got to give us money and you got to give us now. This is their security protocol that had failed, but I'm left to pick up all the pieces.
Muncie is part of a class action lawsuit that claims government operational failures allowed hackers to access the information. The government says stolen login credentials were used to access the CRA website and urged Canadians to avoid reusing passwords. A cybersecurity analyst and lawyer says the government's response to victims is another failure.
So the toothpaste is out of the tube, and to put it back is just not possible. Once your information has been compromised, it is very hard to make somebody whole, in some cases even impossible.
The CRA says security on its website has been upgraded since the hack, so Go Public asked a cybersecurity expert to take a look. She says it's still lacking some basic security features that make it vulnerable to hackers.
I'm very concerned about the privacy of Canadians.
The CRA tells Go Public it can't comment on specific taxpayer situations because of confidentiality rules. Generally, it says, confirmed victims of identity theft won't be held responsible for money paid out to scammers, and says the department is dedicated to resolving those incidents. Rosa Marcatelli, CBC News, Calgary.
Our Go Public stories come from you, so if you have a tip for the team to investigate, send an email to gopublic@cbc.ca. More restaurants are going bankrupt across Canada. The number of filings has jumped up by 116% since last year. Tanya Fletcher looks at why that's been the case and how business owners are calling for help.
Here's the wine fridge, all the whites.
Matthew Senecal-Junkier owns this restaurant in downtown Vancouver. Pre-pandemic, it was a breakfast and lunch hotspot, but the daytime office crowd never rematerialized after COVID, so they turned the back into a wine bar in the evenings. It's now an essential part of their business.
The dynamic and the drivers of the business have completely changed pre- and post-pandemic.
One of the biggest challenges right now, soaring inflation. Menu prices in BC went up an average of 6% last year, despite cost increases of up to 30%.
So I think there's sticker shock. You know, when we opened the business, a $9 sandwich sounded really expensive. And today, you know, with the cost of ingredients that we use, a $14 sandwich is too cheap.
Labor shortages are another major sore spot.
80% capacity is all restaurants are operating at because of the labor shortages. We've had 2/3 of our members that are cutting operating hours because they just don't have the staff.
And the third blow, pandemic-related debt. He says nearly a quarter of restaurants that have yet to repay COVID loans will never be able to fully do so.
So the combination of those factors make it really difficult for restaurants to generate the income to become profitable. And what we saw in the latest numbers is an alarming number at that 51% of restaurants are not making any money. They're unprofitable.
The deadline to pay back federal loans is December 31st, which is a one-year extension from the original date. But the restaurant industry is lobbying the federal government to extend that deadline another 36 months, and they want Ottawa to respond by the end of this month. In BC, the restaurant sector has spent the last few weeks pressuring the provincial government for extra support. Now, help is coming.
But we do know that a number of small businesses are feeling the impact, what we might really call a COVID hangover. So we've been taking those meetings and we'll be announcing something shortly.
But for many restaurants right across the country, they're nearing a tipping point and can't afford to see their margins squeezed any tighter. Tanya Fletcher, CBC News, Vancouver.
A Canadian company disrupted the financial system, and it all started in a bachelor apartment.
Are you always this optimistic?
Often.
Does that annoy people?
You got to ask other people. I don't know.
Ian sits down with the young founder who started it all. And the difficult conversation many are avoiding.
It results in arguments between families, arguments between patients and their physicians. No one wants to speak about it.
When is it time to stop driving? One organization hopes to help. The National takes you deeper into the stories shaping our world. Next. If you're into investing, you've likely heard of Wealthsimple. It's an online service that was founded by a Canadian nearly 10 years ago. Back then, getting clients was a grind, but now the company handles billions of dollars for millions of people. Ian Hanamansing sat down with the founder to talk about breaking into the industry and where they are now.
At just 35 years old, Michael Katchen is the CEO and founder of Wealthsimple, a financial tech company that didn't just push the envelope back in 2014, it replaced it using a paperless, online-only method of investing. His marketing strategy, target millennials.
Am I one of those people that's like keeping some old dinosaur, outdated establishment alive?
Wealthsimple's approach started to get a lot of attention.
Wealthsimple is an example of fintech innovation at its finest. The success of this business has turned heads all over the world.
Now, nearly a decade later, Wealthsimple has more than 3 million clients and manages more than $20 billion in assets. I spoke to Michael Katchen about launching his company in his bachelor apartment and his thoughts on untapped potential for entrepreneurship in Canada.
As you look around here, just think back to the 18-year-old version of you. Could you ever have imagined all of this?
Not in my wildest dreams. You know, it's been an incredible 8 years since we launched the company, but we're just getting started.
So let's talk about your journey to here. I think that the conversations that the kids have around the dinner table probably has a big impact on where they end up. And in your family, you guys talked about investing around the dinner table?
My father is a tax lawyer and my mom's a psychologist, so our dinner conversations were pretty interesting. Talk about tax deals and, you know, empathy and high EQ and those sorts of well-rounded components to being a human being. So I was very lucky that I was introduced to the world of investing at a very young age. At 12 years old, my sister entered me into this stock picking contest for charity. And whoever had the highest balance at the end of 8 weeks won the grand prize ski vacation to Whistler. And so my dad entered under his name, but let me pick the stocks for his entry into this contest. We opened up the newspaper one Saturday morning, you know, because that's how you would do stock research way back in the day. And he asked me to pick a set of symbols that looked interesting to me and taught me how to do some research. So at 12 years old, I bet the farm on one stock. It's a company called MGI Software. And over the course of 8 weeks, it was up 250%. I blew away the competition. And I had the opportunity to take my dad skiing for a week in Whistler. Thought I was the coolest 12-year-old kid around.
And what's it like to take your dad on a ski vacation when you're 12 years old?
Oh, it was pretty awesome. It was pretty awesome. I remember, you know, I think he was probably more proud than me. And so it was just a very cool father-son experience to have. You know, I was lucky because I had this experience, fell in love with investing, and for my bar mitzvah that year, I was gifted a couple shares in MGI Software. And it taught me a very painful and important lesson about investing, because what happened in 1999 to companies that had software in their names or .com in their names, when the tech bubble burst, many of them went to zero. And my bar mitzvah savings evaporated in front of my eyes.
You know, it's interesting and I think significant that we talk about a bar mitzvah present, because when I was reading about you talk about your faith. You talk about how your faith is something which has an impact on your worldview and maybe your approach to business. Tell me about that.
I grew up in the Jewish community, grew up with a lot of Holocaust survivors. My grandmother, who was not a Holocaust survivor, was a particular influence on me. I moved over from Poland as a kid, family of 7 that had absolutely nothing to their names. And she built a life for herself here in Canada and made an enormous impact on me. And I remember that the thing she would always tell me growing up is that the only thing that matters in life is a good name. Because when you die, it's the only thing you take with you. And I remember in particular one story where when I was just in grade 7 or 8, I won this award, which at the time was called the Mensch of the Year Award. And Mensch is a Yiddish word for being a good person. And just seeing the pride on her face at winning that award is one of the most special memories and proudest moments of my entire life. And I think that made a pretty lasting impression on the kind of leader and person I try to be.
And so let's fast forward to getting out of university. You went to business school. And then what happened after that led to you being here?
So I went to the Ivy Business School and was fortunate that I had the opportunity to move down to San Francisco, where a few friends had started a company. I joined them. It was a classic startup, a house in San Francisco. We were working out of it, living out of it. We built that business over a number of years and ultimately sold it.
You may be tired of people mentioning your age. I hope it's okay if I say you're 35?
I'm 35.
So 7 or 8 years ago, as you were launching this company, you were that much younger. People could do
Had a lot more hair. Yeah.
Must have been tough to be young and trying to get into this industry and offer a product that was maybe seemed unusual at the time?
When I moved back from San Francisco to Toronto, we raised a small round of capital from some very early believers in the business, and were able to put that together pretty quickly. But there were scrappy days. The first office for Wealthsimple was my apartment. My partner at the time continues to be my partner today, was extremely understanding, as we had just a team of people coming in, working all day and all night on this business in our one bachelor apartment room. But we were desperately trying everything we could to get a client. So I would do things like, if you signed up for Wealthsimple, I would try to call every single user within 30 seconds of sign up to wow them. And it was things like that. It was just the grind of the early days of trying to get a customer, trying to grow. And it took a long time to build enough of a momentum, enough of a scaled client base, where I think most people look past that now. We have 3 million clients, tens of billions of dollars that we manage, but those early days were very different.
And so let's talk a little bit about the San Francisco years. Silicon Valley, it attracts entrepreneurs from around the world. Do you miss it?
In many ways. I mean, my experience living in San Francisco left a very indelible impact on me as an entrepreneur. Canadians, I love Canada. I'm a Canadian through and through, a deeply proud Canadian. It's why I moved back to build the business here and not stay in San Francisco. But there is a mindset in San Francisco that is just contagious optimism about, let's go, there's a problem in the world, let's go invent the future that we want to live in. Let's build a company to solve real problems. And a lot of it's naive, a lot of it's way up in the sky, and you could criticize it in many different ways. But there is something incredible, because truly the very best companies get built with this almost naive optimism, naive ambition about imagining the world as it could be and looking past the problems or the things that couldn't get in the way of making that possible, and just running through those brick walls and making it happen. And I think Canada needs more of that. And so when I moved back, I made the deliberate choice. I wanted to build a business in Canada. I wanted to do what I could to import as much of that Silicon Valley mindset and entrepreneurship culture into the Canadian psyche. Part of winning is making trade-offs and choosing what are the bets where Canada has a right to be the #1 player in the world. What are those? Is that in resource, entrepreneurship? Is it in software and machine learning and artificial intelligence, which we had a very early lead? Some of the foremost experts in the field are Canadian, and it's now coming of age as a field. So we need to pick our spots, and we need to build a density of talent, put the capital up to really make something special happen.
And in terms of inspiring people, if somebody is watching this now who, a teenager, for example, they're not really sure, they want to be successful, but they don't know how to get to that level of success. What advice do you have for them?
So I hate most career advice.
Why is that? What do you hate about it?
Well, I found that I could never relate. Most career advice goes something like, discover your passions and pursue them to their fullest. I found that too daunting. When I was growing up, I had a myriad of interests. I had no idea what I wanted to do. And just this idea of finding the one thing you've got to commit your life to, I thought was just overwhelming. I had no idea what to do with it. And what I have found is choose people over passions. I found the best decisions I've ever made in my career have been when I chose to work with a group of people that inspired me, that I learned from. And I found that if I did that well, I was surprised that no matter what I was working on, I could be really happy.
Are you always this optimistic?
Often.
Does that annoy people?
You got to ask other people. I don't know.
Well, it's a real pleasure getting a chance to sit down and talk to you. Thank you very much.
Thanks for having me.
Now, as Ian said, there's a lot of optimism within Wealthsimple, and rightfully so. At its height, it was valued at about $5 billion, but the company hasn't been immune to the volatility in the tech sector. Less than 1 year ago, it cut 13% of its workforce, and shortly after, its biggest investor slashed its valuation by nearly 50%. Next, a different type of conversation many families are steering clear of.
You have to give me your keys.
But a new website hopes to make it easier. That's next. For people living with dementia, giving up driving isn't always easy, but they become more dangerous on the roads as their disease advances. Christine Birak looks at what's at stake when they get behind the wheel and the tools 2 Canadian doctors developed to help them come to terms with that.
Driving is one of the most mentally complex things we regularly do. It takes focus, split-second decision-making, and memory. As we age, those skills tend to decline. For people with dementia, including Alzheimer's, driving becomes much more dangerous with time. Researchers project nearly 1 million Canadians will be living with dementia by 2030. The hard part is knowing when someone should stop driving and how to tell them.
It results in arguments between families, arguments between patients and their physicians. No one wants to speak about it.
Dr. Gary Nagley is the chief of staff at Baycrest, a centre for geriatric care in Toronto. He often sees patients with severe dementia. If they're still driving, he suspends their license on the spot.
I've been fired more than once by patients. They get very angry because they don't really understand what's happening. And that's because we've all avoided talking about it until it's gotten too late.
Too late to make them part of the decision-making process. For most people, driving isn't just about getting from point A to point B. It's often intertwined with our sense of independence, freedom, and competence.
Many people view this as my life is going to stop as I know it the minute that my license gets suspended. And we have to give them the confidence that that's not the case.
Family members of people
To do that, he joined forces with Dr. Mark Rappaport.
We wanted to help allow people to plan in advance.
Dr. Rappaport is the acting head of geriatric psychiatry at Toronto Sunnybrook Hospital. With the help of a team, he and Dr. Nagley recently launched drivinganddementia.ca.
The website is set up with 3 portals.
One speaks directly to people with dementia. Another is for family and friends. There's also a portal for healthcare providers. Each offers evidence-based strategies for when, why, and how to help. including videos.
You have to give me your keys.
So far, most visitors to the website have been family members looking for advice on starting the conversation about driving and warning signs that it may be time to stop.
Look for red flags. Look for difficulty making turns, difficulty changing lanes, a difficulty maintaining speed.
I learned to drive this old Ford at age 12, and I loved it.
Remember, we used to leave on a Friday.
As a young man, Ron Posno also learned to fly. An incident cost him his vision in one eye 50 years ago, but he says his brain was always wired for highly technical tasks. Then, in his mid-70s, things started changing.
Something was affecting how I was processing information, and particularly how I could remember how to do this or that or whatever.
He was diagnosed with dementia in 2016.
We couldn't live with ourselves if kids got hurt.
Now 83, he recently gave up his license after watching a video on the dementia and driving site and a scary incident outside his building.
I turned my head back to look at where I was supposed to go, and two little kids, about 10, 12 years old, rushed by the front of the car on their bicycles. They were just suddenly there. Well, that terrified me, because if I had started, I would have run into it, no question.
But not everyone with dementia willingly hands over their keys, even after a doctor tells them to. Instead, some patients head to an assessment center.
Our goal, and we tell them right from the get-go, that we're on their side. We want them to do as well as they can.
Nell Marie Hyde is an occupational therapist. For about $500, patients can privately retest their driving skills.
What did you see inside the white box? They would say it was a car, so they would touch car.
Cognitive tests check attention, memory, and speed of decision making. And there's a road test.
At the first street up ahead, we're going to make another right turn.
Ultimately, coming up with a new transportation plan for getting around is key.
There's life after driving, and that we can help support the transition such that it's not as awful as they perceive it to be.
Since Posno stopped driving, friends and neighbors have stepped up, along with his wife, Sandy.
It does change your life, but we can do it, and there's all kinds of resources.
While he misses sitting behind the wheel, Posno says he has no regrets.
I couldn't stand the idea of me hurting somebody with my driving.
Now, if you know someone with dementia who's been driving, it can be difficult to broach this topic with them. Experts say to make it a successful conversation, the key is to avoid being paternalistic, and it's best to focus on their options for getting around. Next, the wildfires forcing not just people from their homes, but also their four-legged friends.
She's not used to spending extended periods outside because she's a bit of a pampered princess.
This not-so-little piggy and the kindness of strangers in our moment.
Three, two, one. Engines full power. And liftoff, Falcon 9, go Axiom.
And that is blastoff for SpaceX on a mission to the International Space Station. On board, a former NASA astronaut and 3 paying customers. One of them is making history. Stem cell researcher Rayana Bernawi, she's on the left there, the first woman from Saudi Arabia to travel to space. Here's another out-of-this-world mission, saving this pot-bellied pig named Matilda from the wildfires engulfing parts of Hay River in the Northwest Territories. When those fires forced the Cloutier family to leave their home, they couldn't fathom leaving Matilda behind, so they set out to find a place worthy of a pet pig. Their pig mission is our moment.
This is Matilda, and she's an 8-year-old Vietnamese potbelly pig. We've had her since she was an 8-pound piglet, and now she's in the range of 170 pounds. She was definitely top of mind. You know, we figured that would be just too heartbreaking a thing to do, to have to, you know, evacuate and leave her behind. So Leanne, my wife, had put a post on Facebook earlier to see if anyone did happen to have a space that would be better suited for her, and we reached out to these folks, because they said they had this kennel inside of a garage, and she would have free roam over the garage as well. So that sounded like a really good option. Come on, go to bed. She's not used to spending extended periods outside because she's a bit of a pampered princess. So I know everybody's interested in meeting a pig, a pet pig, but I don't think most people realize that sometimes she can be quite a handful. So I'm appreciative that these folks, not only that they volunteered, but that they're actually they're really accommodating to her special needs.
Now, it must be said, the folks who took Matilda in, wonderful of them, were a bit surprised by just how big she was. When not being evacuated from wildfires, Matilda, and I'm not kidding here, enjoys long walks on the beach and rubbing herself against driftwood. High on the hog, that one. That is The National for May 21st. Thanks very much for being with us. Have a great night.